Yo, it's Guido coming at you with another too long review of a tank. This time it is the IS-3-II, the double-barreled Russian shotgun at Tier 9. Basically an IS-3 hull, upgunned, really upgunned actually, with an extra 390 alpha, 122 thrown on board. So we'll do this the standard way, guys. We are going to be going way too long, so make sure you put that complaint down in the comments. We'll do an overview, tech tree, considerations, look at the 3D model, do a comparison amongst its peers, take a look at my stats, my setup, and then some 3 gameplay examples. So if you just want the gameplay examples, cruise to the back of the video. If you want the rest of it, then stick around and we will get started. Remember, it's going to be too long, so there you go. Well, here she is, the IS-3-II with 2 barrels, 2 of those 122 millimeters sitting on it. It's vaguely an IS-3. As it says up here, it's based on the produced IS-3. It was a project. The tank featured a wider, elongated hull. It's a bigger hull. It sort of looks like an IS-3, but it's much larger turret, obviously, for the extra gun to go in there. Existed only in blueprints. So this is the fever dream, a Soviet fever dream, and here it is. That's mostly what we get anymore, isn't it? Since they've pretty much shown just about every produced tank that actually existed. We've got all kinds of fantasy tanks, which doesn't bother me, but here you go. The thing about it is, and we'll get to the stats in just a minute, but it's an IS-3 hull that's been moved up a tier, and that never goes really great. It does have trouble being a heavy tank. The turret is gigantic, fairly flat on the side and easy to pin right there. It does have a pike nose. It does have a fairly large lower plate right there, and there are some weak spots in and around the guns that we'll talk about. Some hatches, but they're really kind of hard to hit. There's some over here, just barely raised, so it doesn't have a giant tumor on it. Really, it's the fact that it's a pike nose and it will flat plate if you're at an angle, or if you're straight on, you've got that big lower plate right there. Let's take a look at the tech tree considerations. Okay, this comes off of the KV-3, so it's a new line. You can see the KV-3 used to just go to the KV-4. Now it goes over to the IS-2-II and then the IS-3-II. The KV-3 has 2 loaders, as does the IS-3-II, as does the IS-2-II, and the, I believe, ST-II, correct? So 2 loaders is what you've got going on there. Also 2, and in addition to, at the same time, the Object 703 version 2, the premium double barrel tank, has the same loadout. So as far as a trainer, the 703 can do the training thing. And then as far as moving crews, your KV-3 crew will jump right in there and go all the way through if that's what you'd like to do. Now let's take a look at the configurations. All right, for upgrading, I started this actually, I did this whole line stock. With the whole line, it means I did the IS-2-II stock and went through the modules. And then I did the IS-3-II stock as well and went through the modules. Both of the tanks don't have very many modules. The IS-3 or the IS-2-II actually only had 1 of everything to upgrade. This one has what is basically a useless gun. I don't even know why this thing is here. It starts off with the 100s that you had on the IS-2-II, which are okay. 300 alpha, 256 pen with gold, and 221 without. But the good gun is sitting at 243 and 292, which is usable at tier 9, but a little bit lower than some of the rest of them. Now, what you need to know here is, unlike the IS-2-II, where it didn't matter what order you unlocked, you are going to need, if you want to put this gun on, you're going to need obviously the turret to get there, and then as you can see, you're going to need the tracks. So the direction you want to do this, because you're going to have to unlock the turret and the tracks, I'd recommend the turret first to get the benefit of the extra armor on there, and I believe it will actually make your 100 reload a little faster, as I recall. I'm not 100% sure, but then grab your tracks and then you can put the gun on. Go for the engine from there. The radio is to taste, that's up to you, and off you go. That radio might actually be unlocked. As I recall, that radio may actually be unlocked by something else. So I think you can start with the radio. That's not going to hurt anything as far as that goes. So that's my recommendation. What I did not look at is the equipment. It's possible you may need to go to the tracks to just put the equipment on. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll put some equipment on real time here and see what that does. You're going to want a rammer as well. You could go coated optics on this for sure. Oh, there is no rammer. That's right. There's no rammer on this because it is the double-barreled guy. So let's just put coated optics on there and see what happens when we try to configure this thing. Can we actually? There you go. So we can still do it with equipment on as well. So that's not enough weight to matter really. So that would be the order I would do it. Turret, tracks, engine. You're already going to have probably The radio depends on how many other Russian tanks you've unlocked. I'm not sure which one this one comes with, but it seems to be fairly common. And then go for this gun. I do not recommend this gun at all. There doesn't seem to be any real reason to do that. Its loading is even longer, so there's just, I don't know. I don't know why this is here, to be quite honest. It just makes no sense. I mean, I guess you could make an argument that it's less experience just to grab that gun and put it on. Can I do that? Yeah, I can do that without putting track. So I suppose that's one option, to get an upgraded gun to 390 Alpha and then start messing around. But I would just stick with these, because really the 100s are fine initially. It's not amazing, but they will work, and you will be firing gold though. The other option obviously is to use your free experience and not deal with stock tanks. So there you go. All right, let's move on to the 3D model. Hopefully they've got it. All right, here is the armor layout on this thing. You see it's an IS-3 kind of hull with the pike nose. So standard act, if you're straight on, it's okay-ish on the top with some decent angles. Obviously, we'll get a little bit further back. The lower plate is pretty bad at only 200 effective. Pretty easy to pen with just about anything, even at tier 8. And a high roll with a 190 pen gun will go through it with a high roll. But as with all pike noses, as you start to angle it, you get that further side is really pretty good. And you've got to come at it with a pretty big angle before you start making that lower plate much better. Of course, then you're flat plating the pike that you're looking at, the side you're going at. So it makes side scraping with these things a little bit problematic. And it's on side scraping, it's a little bit more about just minimizing how much of this is exposed, vice putting some kind of great armor profile to the enemy. And of course, the hull is very nice at 280. If you look at this, there's some spaced armor right there, 10 millimeters. There's a little flange that comes out. There is a hole right there that I think is a viewport or perhaps a machine gun port. I think it's the viewport for the sighting on the gun. I don't know if it's modeled. I can't really, as I do this, I'm not sure. I don't see any really small armor numbers in there, so maybe that's not actually a weak point. I have had some luck shooting these right here and over here, just because if you come up above, you can see how that rounded turret's really kind of flat in that area right there, which means that you're only going to be facing the 280. Of course, you shift anyway, up, down, or over. You know, if you're aiming here and you go left, you're going into this super strong matlet. If you go right, you start to get more effective armor because the angle's much higher. Same thing for going up high there. The top of it's only 68, so potential with very large calibers for overmatch. 180. No, I guess you can't even overmatch that, it looks like. At least not that portion of it, even with the big 150 millimeter dudes. I guess even the 183 isn't going to do that, is it? If you math in public, huh? Let's see, 52 millimeters. There you go, 52 millimeters, which is 156. So tough luck overmatching with your 183. That's actually pretty funny. Just enough, huh, guys? Just enough. That's awesome. There's a little viewport there. I don't believe that's actually a place you can hit. And pretty much that's it. The side view, there's that gigantic turret I was talking about. Relatively low armor. I mean, 160 is quite a bit, but flat plated. Even your tier 5 or 7s are going to probably have no trouble going through that sideways right there. And do we have any? Looks like we got some spaced armor here. 20 millimeters along the side. So we got the old Russian spaced armor side, 30 millimeters up towards the front. That's pretty brutal. And is there a place to get at it without hitting the space? Doesn't look like it. Does not look like it. All right, there you go. So there's the tank model. Big. It's pretty large. That's going to play into some of its weaknesses as well. All right, let's move on. Okay, the comparison tool. I've set these all to 100% cruise, taken off all the equipment. There are no bonuses, no personal reserves or anything on these. What do we got? We've got the IS-3-II, a lot of its peers. These are all Tech Tree tanks. I'm just going to compare them against that. I suppose there's only one or two tier 9 premiums anyway at this point, right? 397 on the firepower is actually pretty low. That interested me a little bit because it also has the highest DPM, but it suffers a little bit on penetration. It's near the bottom on the penetration, and its gold round is good, okay, but its alpha is the lowest at 390 of the entire lot. Even the Conqueror's hitting for 400, but of course you're carrying 2 of those 122 millimeter tanks, and you are doing, I'm doing math in public, 580. Sorry, that's not even close. 780. 780 potential damage with one shot in there. 10 seconds on the gun loading, which is best in class, but of course it's got to load 2 to have its full impact. That's about 20 seconds base. You've got the salvo preparation thing is if you take a shot with it, it takes 2.5 seconds to shoot. Sorry, if you take both shots at once, it takes 2.5 seconds to get those both to come out of the barrel before it actually fires. So it's not like where you just click and it shoots with a single round. And then if you do that, you have a 4-second lockout before it starts reloading again, which would then turn your single gun reload into 14.07 at that point without any other bonuses. That's basically how that works. And we've got 2 shots and 5 seconds between each shot, which is actually quite long. And what's interesting is you take that one shot, and then in those 5 seconds, you're going to start reloading this one. So you're already halfway to reloading that next shell when you take your first shot and get to the second one. So that can actually make those shots happen relatively quick. And that's how we get down to a pretty good 2,324 average DPM. Aim time is 2.88, which is pretty long, and the dispersion is not great at 0.38. These are the 122 millimeters, so their accuracy is a little bit suspect. The one that made me laugh quite a bit was the -8 and +20. No, virtually no other Russian tanks have a -8 on its depression. Somehow, magically, you can stuff 2 giant guns into one turret, and all of a sudden you have more depression than the rest of their designs, which is kind of funny, but it ends up being a balancing decision, I suppose, or maybe a little Russian bias thrown in there so we can have some good gun depression on our tank. That really just kind of cracked me up. Moving on, we've got 1,800 hit points, which is good, but not best in class by any means. In fact, of these, it looks like it's the lowest, to be quite honest. Interesting that it's such a big tank, but relatively, doesn't have a lot of staying power, and part of that problem is the armor I talked about. The hull's only 145 with 90 on the sides. The turret is good, but not amazing. It's not 257 or Conqueror amazing, but it's pretty good. That's actually surprising. I did not realize the Conqueror is showing 254 only. I feel like its turret's better, but clearly not by the numbers. It may just be the shape of it and such, or maybe I'm just thinking the Super Conqueror, because I have nightmares of those things hold down. But anyway, that's kind of interesting. It's pretty good at 280, to be quite honest. So hold down, fighting behind rubble, things like that. Obviously, you have to worry a little bit about the -8 not being great gun depression, but as a general rule, if you can find a place to hide your hull, that's going to be very good for this tank. Very good indeed. The side armor, that's why it's kind of an indifferent side scraper. It's not amazing. Look at the M103. I did not realize that sad thing has 44 on the side. That's... Holy cow, poor M103. Sad M103 noises. The mobility is okay-ish. It's low, 38. We got 34 with the M103, once again, really sucking the place up. The Conqueror is pretty slow. To be quite honest, it feels a little faster than 38 because I think it gets up and goes pretty well. 15 backwards is decent. It does have to be noted, because I just saw the hull traverse, that the turret traverse is pretty bad at 22.95. It's not E75 bad, but you will notice that it does take a while to get your turret on. So the trick of turning your hull and your turret at the same time is definitely a player with this tank if you've got to get your gun over somewhere in azimuth. That brings us down here to concealment. It's a heavy tank. It has virtually no concealment, just like the rest of them. And of course, when it's moving, it's even worse. Spotting's 380, which is a pretty good number, but if you consider it's a tier 9, and it fights a lot of 9s and 10s and such, it's pretty bad. 380 is well below, say, a T10 or even an E75 at 400. So it does suffer a little bit in the vision game at the high tiers, which is where it generally lives anyway, being a tier 9. So there you go. Not the greatest spotting tank out there. So what would you say about this? It's an interesting thing, and we'll talk about it in my replays because it hits hard. It can really dish out some pain, but it has a hard time heavy tanking a lot of times. And the problem with this thing is, and with most of these double barrels, is they want to be close to the work because you want to be able to hit something with that derpy 122 millimeter beast on there. You really love to give them the old double tap. But the problem is when I'm doing heavy tank things, I don't heavy tank very well because the armor and the mobility really lets this thing down, especially late game when you're needing to bounce that one shot that's going to keep you in the game, or when you're needing to maneuver and get somewhere, or you've got to take that snapshot on that fleeting shot. All those little things that help win the game, this thing struggles a bit with those. So yes, early on and mid-game when there's lots of targets and it's free to send all those rounds downrange, it does a really nice job with that. But it does struggle mid to late game a lot of times. Most heavy tanks do. Most heavy tanks do. All right, let's take a look at my stats. So basically, I stunk up the place win rate wise, and it surprised me a little bit because I didn't actually do too badly in the tank. 74 battles. I did, like I said, I played this from stock, so some of that struggle was the stock tank. It was rough. It was a little bit rough. The 100s were usable. I didn't go for that interim gun, so I spent quite a bit of time upgrading because I had to get through nearly everything to get the gun. I already had, like I said, I already had the only thing I did not unlock before the gun was the engine. So I got the tracks, I got the turret, got the gun, then I got the engine. I already had the radio, and I moved on from there. So that did hurt me a bit. Over 1,000 XP per battle, which is pretty good. If you're at 1,000, you're doing pretty good. 74 battles, like I said, a whole 45% win rate. This really speaks to this thing's inability to carry or to do heavy tank things late game. It really does. And what was interesting is I had 2,651 damage caused, and if you look at my 705 at 132 battles with a 65% win rate and a similar experience, what's the damage in this thing? Same damage, same assist basically. Actually, I have more assist with the IS-3-II, and I'm doing much better win rate wise. The ST1 at 139 battles was 63. Also have good experience in that, and this one's only 2,400. The T10 at 56% is 2,600. The E75 at 53%. This is an older tank. I had one of the first heavies I unlocked, so some pretty bad stats on it, but it's got 2,091 and it's sitting at 53%. So bit of an anomaly. I don't think these stats kind of support 55, maybe at the most, 53 to 55% win rate in today's meta with this tank. So to some extent, my excuses, obviously my reasons, are going to be playing it stock and then really not doing very well with it mid to late game on cleanup and staying in the game. So, and I'm not sure exactly why. I think it has a lot to do with it doesn't heavy tank very well, as I've mentioned, and maybe a little bit of overconfidence in the two guns late game potentially. So I have struggled a bit to close the deal, even though my stats show that I should be more like 53, 55% win rate, even at a relatively low sample size. 74 is getting there. I should probably be 53 to 55 with it. So it was kind of an interesting result, I thought. The rest of the numbers are solid too. 1.75 on the damage, 2.04 on the destruction. There's the armor, not doing great, 0.64. For example, the 705 is sitting at 1.04. So anytime you're at 1, it's a well-armored tank. Anytime you're around 0.5, it's a situational okay tank. And that's what you've got with the IS-3-II. Really good turret. The hull is trash, and that is reflected in its armor capabilities right there. Damage received 1,500. The spotted is kind of high, and that may also be part of it because I try to get close to my work with the heavy tank, and I want to get those double barrels in the game. It's very possible I'm overcommitting early and having trouble trading too much hit points, and then I'm not having options late game. Hence, I have a 45% win rate. So I thought it was kind of interesting. It is a bit of a tricky tank to play, but it can be very good because of those two barrels. Let's look at my setup. For my setup, I sort of covered it already. I had a very good crew in it, as you can see. That's the same crew that I put into the 703 version 2, the premium, the same one that I used for the IS-2-II and for the IS-3-II, moved them onto there. So very good crew from Christmas. You can see that I'm running vert stab, that's mandatory. I'm running improved vents and optics. Remember, there's no rammer involved here. There is an option potentially to use the GLD, but I think because its view range is so bad and it doesn't have the option for a rammer, you might as well go with coated optics and then the vents to improve everything along the way. Large kits, large fire extinguishers, or automatic fire extinguisher. I did use directives on occasion. I think the best ones that you would want to use if you've got them are stabilizer greasing, because that's going to help you with the derpiness of the gun, absolutely. And that's vent purge. You could do that as well for the crew over on the other side. Then the steady hand would be a good one, in gearbox intricacy. Also, anything that's going to help the thing shoot. You could, I did use a little bit, just to throw this out there, on occasion, because I had a bunch of them, I used combat course for clutch braking, which helped with the mobility a little bit as far as turning the hull. Just throw that out there. I did carry quite a few APCR at 12. I wanted to show you the penetration at 243 with 292 with the gold is... It's a little rough. Some of the more heavily armored tier 10s, you are going to struggle a bit with only 292. Well, let's take a look at, let's say the 257's got heat, and he's going to get 315 out of it, right? And the ST1, I think, shoots heat, and he gets 340 out of his heat. So it does struggle a bit pen-wise in the game. It does struggle a bit pen-wise in the game. So that was my setup right there. Let's take a look at 3 examples of gameplay. For the first example, I'm going to show you some stock gameplay, which I don't think a lot of people actually do that, but I did play it stock. It's got a bit of a different turret on it when it's stock, kind of boxier looking thing. And I'm rolling those 2 100s, baby. As you can see that I've got plenty of APCR with me. It's sitting at 221 pen though with the standard round. So we're going to go ahead, we'll speed this up. I am going to play a bit more carefully. So a bit of Campa Lampa Ding Dong going up to the top. This is my first decent game with the stock config. As I said, I did struggle a bit early on attempting to play this thing stock. It went pretty quickly though because of things like ×5s, the ×5 rewards we had, directives, not directives, but personal, whatever they are. They'll come to me in just a minute. And that allows you these days to really crank up the credits, crank up the experience, crank up the free experience, and makes things much easier. So I'm going to come in here. This is a pretty common bush for people to go to, so I was a little bit nervous that one of those big kids back there would just take a poke in the bush and I'd lose 500-600 hit points. The PTA kind of gets hammered. He's trying to do his thing over there. I avoided knocking that tree down up there just for the very reason that I didn't want them to know I was there, or at least have confirmation. There's probably a lot of people guessing there's somebody in one of those bushes, because there usually is. There we go. So I'll just take one shot on him. I think what I should have done there, and another thing I did struggle a little bit with these tanks, is knowing when to go for a double shot. Sometimes I missed opportunities to do so, and I think that was probably one of them. And I just get absolutely punished for poking out right there. That's kind of the long reload time between the shots. Just my timing was a bit off. Other autoloader-esque tanks do that much faster, and that one surprised me. But now I'm going to get pushed. They basically think they've got me dead to rights right here. So I'm going to... A little bit of a wiggle gets a bounce. That's very helpful. Another one. So that was also very helpful. It was nice not to lose those hit points because I was kind of getting hammered before then. So now I'm just trying to survive. We're in a big scrum right here. That guy just dies wholesale. Finally get one into him. I'm just thinking, come on, man, let me survive this. There we go. Somebody got him for me. And I got out of that alive. I don't know how, but I did. Actually, I do know how. I didn't quit. I just kept trying to make them miss. And I made them miss enough or bounce enough that I was able to live. And that's a big deal, because that's kind of what you got to do in this game. When you get in situations like that, if you can just survive one shot, then work on surviving another one and keep on going. There you go. Somebody knows there's someone in the bush. Thankfully, he only hit my track. I'm going to go ahead and let it get repaired on its own because I don't have a kit. And then I'll back out. So we kind of survived that little YOLO push in there, and it was looking a little bit grim because we didn't have a lot of guys over here. But all of a sudden, a bunch of people have meta flexed over here to help us out. And I don't know why he's doing that, but I get out of his way. Well, that was rude. I remember that now. It has to be said that one benefit of no more team damage is that you can express your irritation once with things like that, and it doesn't hurt anything other than wasting your own credits like a muppet. I have no idea why he just crossed across there and decided to go right into the bush I was sitting in, but there you go. So I decided to move forward. I'm going to shift over to the left right there. Get spotted. I kind of expected that. There's no artillery, so this run-in is relatively safe as long as I can cover up with the terrain. I shouldn't get hit by anything. Pretty glad the FV wasn't looking my way when I did this move. There's the mobility, and again, stock mobility, it is relatively slow. What did I get up to? Maybe 35 or so. So it looks like its top speed is attainable. I want to say it was 38, as I recall. More or less attainable in the stock configuration. Let's sneak one into him. There's that reload. One thing that has to be said about the 100 millimeters is they do reload quickly. That was kind of a good thing that I enjoyed about the stock 100 millimeter guns, is they did reload really quickly. So we're all good. Trying to figure this out. This guy's going to make a runner. I'll sneak one at him, but miss him. That surprised me. He didn't get me spotted, so he must have been behind a bush right there when he went by and I shot. The STB goes in. And it's the FV that was concerning me, and then I find him right there, and I'm thinking, oh, he's out in the flat. That's exactly where we want that guy. I don't want to move up, though, because the Centurion is back there as well as an Object 430. And I'm basically down to a one-shot or two-shot. I can get double-tapped by those two guys very quickly. There's the AX. He's kind of moved around. Now I'm thinking, all right, well, actually, I don't think either one of these guys is in a position to shoot me, so I can actually move forward here and see if I can start harassing the FV. That rock right there is helping me that they've put there. That didn't used to be there a while back. And that sort of screens you from some of the guys up here. So now the FV is just right here. I'm just trying to shoot one into the top of the turret, but there we go. Sneak one in there. The 100 is also more accurate than the 122, so that's another benefit of using the 100. I'm not saying you would want to use it. You know, once you unlock the big guns, that's what you want to go with. But for the grind, it's not awful. There's one thing I did want to talk about that's interesting. It shoots the right gun first. Boom. And what happens is, when you shoot, the view shifts over to the other gun, and that can be disorienting if you're not used to it. Several times I actually thought it was the that guy sneaks a shot onto me. Several times I thought it was somebody ramming into me based on the way it shifted. There we go. Sneak one into that guy. Got the bounce. Yay me. And we're up to 2,936. So, but back to that gun thing. I think I mentioned it in the 703, in my 703 review. You'll take that shot and it'll shift, and it feels like someone's rammed into you. At least that's what it feels like to me. It's a little bit disorienting. You just have to remember when you're using the double barrels that happens. We'll speed this up because it takes a while to drive over this way. I'm not even sure I get any more damage. Just find out. I've really kind of limited myself on options by having so few hit points. To some extent, there wasn't much I could do about it based on the YOLO that I had come at me. But when you've got less hit points towards the end of the game, you have less capability to kind of bull in there and get your damage. So I'm down to a one-shot at 58 hit points. I've got to be careful. I sneak one into the Conway and get myself up to 3,300 and some change. Now I'm just trying to work across here and see if I can get some shots in the sides of these guys. As you can see, I've spammed all my gold. Gold noob. Tell me I'm bad. I got it. Noted. That's been a big thing in the forums as well lately, is gold round orthodoxy is apparently returned. And I'm not sure I get any more shots. I was hoping to get one on this guy, but he dies. Yeah, there you go. And then I try to get in here, and I think he actually dies, so I'm just making you watch this for not. Do I get it? No. I did take a shot, but I missed. Okay, there you go. So ends up being 3,369, 435. So the point of that then obviously is you can be effective. You need to be careful. You can be effective with the stock guns. They're not atrocious. They're not amazing. Don't get me wrong. But the grind isn't bad, is what I'm saying. If you are going to go ahead and grind it, it's not that bad. Go ahead and grab your tracks, then get your turret, then get your big gun, and you'll be much happier at that point. Get the engine so you can rage around a bit. But I unlocked the whole thing in 74 battles. That's unheard of. In the past, that would have been 150. Depending how good you are, 150 to 200 battles. And if you're free to play, goodness knows how long that would have taken to do. But today, with all the bonuses, and if you have premium account, it's pretty quick. Let's go on to the second example. All right, here's the second game that I wanted to show you. Again, I have the stock gun, although I've upgraded. I believe the turret is actually, no, it looks like the old turret. Is it the old turret? Or is it the new turret? I think it's the new turret. Yep, I think I've got the turret upgraded. So this is right before I upgraded the guns, because I had to have the turret first. So yeah, that's the upgraded turret. Anywho, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to lie to you because I'm going to tell you that I only gave you 2 replays, but this is actually going to be the second of 3. So there you go. I already did the ending of the video, so here I am. But as I thought about it, I figured this was actually a pretty good example of how this tank can be played, even with the stock gun or the upgraded guns. Wouldn't really matter, because what I'm doing here is I'm basically using the turret. And hold down, it actually has some armor. So there's some capability hold down. Of course, poking at other highly armored guys' turrets is probably not going to yield many great results. Try to go up these stairs right there, but actually you've got to use this, which is going to expose me a little bit. And the reason I'm thinking about going down that road right there is, notice how far is it a GSOR? I think it is. Let me get a sneak shot on this guy. There we go. That's that not great side armor that these things have. I'm able to sneak to. Well, it looks like I might have gotten to the lower plate. The GSOR, see how far over he is? That means there's nobody kind of in the middle, and I haven't taken any shots. What I am worried about is whether they're way in the back. So we're going to hang out here, but I do have my eye on that road along the side, getting up and getting some flanking shots on these guys. So poke one in on that guy, got him pinned down, tracked him, we'll put another one into him, and there's that double tap. Not double tap as in I fired both at the same time, but that boom, boom within 4 or 5 seconds. Take the one shot and the other, even with the stock gun. That's still quite a bit of damage, 600 or so. That one bounces. There's another bounce off the turret. He's just, either he's tracked, I guess I've tracked him again, or he's just sitting in there. So I'm spamming the gold a little bit, attempting to get through these guys. There's a 50 TP down on the end down there. GSOR is still kind of keeping an eye. So I'm still thinking, all right, when can I sneak down that road? I'd really like to. But this dude is just sort of hanging out, just availing me of his hit points, giving me his hit points, however you want to look at it. Whatever that language is I'm trying to use. And there he is, just sitting there still. So I don't know. It's a BB, so let's not get too excited about beating the poor new guy in the BB tank. There's a hit. So that IS-3 gets a thump on me. Looks like he's firing the 122s. The question is, where did he shoot me? Right into the turret? Or did he get into my... It's hard to tell. Sometimes the modeling doesn't show, does it? I'll be honest, I don't know where he hit me. I'd have to go back to it. And we're not doing that. We're just going to keep... Now they're kind of getting pushed. Guys are starting to wrap around a little bit. The T-95's moving in. And now I'm thinking, all right, how about we go get rid of this 50 TP and see if we can't get around beside them, because there are some flanking opportunities over here. I'm going to come back for maybe a shot or two first. Now it's a 110E3. I'm going to have a really hard time pinning that guy. Even that hatch is going to be very difficult. And he's actually not going to have too much trouble. Thought I might sneak one into the chin right there. He's not going to have too much trouble pinning me even in my turret. So I'm just going to shoot that last gold round. Didn't really do much. And now I'm thinking about going down this road. Finally, I hope. Somewhere along here I'm going to do this. There we go. Drive up. Oh! And that's what I was worried about, giving him just enough side shot right there to put one into me. So we get up this, and now we're going to push on in. 2 to 1. We really haven't created much of a advantage right now. But we have taken a lot of their hit points down. I think that IS-3-II sort of saw what I was doing. Try to sneak one right on that guy's hatch. Oh, it worked. Nice. And down he goes. Down he goes. That's the decent accuracy of the 100. The IS-3-II is hurt. That's a good thing. Now I'm going to try to sneak in here. Bit surprised how fast he reacted to that. Made me feel like maybe I was spotted, but holy cow, did he ever just spin as soon as the front of my tank came around there. And so now it's, it's a good move, but as long as that 110E3 is staring there, I'm really hoping that we can start getting him to fight 2 angles. We've got 3 or 4 of them stuffed into this road. We have a slight advantage at 4-3. This is that careful part with this tank I'm talking about. Now really no Tier 9 heavy is going to be able to just come around that corner and tank a shot from the 110E3. I have enough hit points that unless he, for some reason, loaded HE, I'm probably going to survive. I'm able to bait him with that one, which was the idea. Get him pinned down a little bit. That was dumb. I should have went for the lower plate. I could have pinned that. I actually caught him at an angle too, so it was just really a poor decision on my part. The BB is attempting to keep him busy. I really need him to have trouble like he's about to have from the other side. Force him to start fighting in a different direction, because right now he's just staring down this road and there's no way I'm going to get past this or come around this corner without eating a shot. It was a case of I thought I could probably kill him. I might consider doing it, but he does have friends there, so I could possibly easily get double tapped, and that's not going to work at all. So now I'm thinking about just backing out. But then I'm seeing the 277 go that way. I'm like, all right, well, maybe we can start creating a little bit of worry on his part. I see him turning towards me there, wondering if he's going to need to shoot me. The IS-3-II comes around and takes a shot. Now I see the IS-3-II over there. And then I saw him kind of turn towards the BB, and that was my opportunity to finally get by. And that's what I was wanting to do the whole time, is try to get by that guy. He's not paying attention, so I'll just come around here and shoot him. 2,877. Now we've created multiple angles for these guys to have to worry about. 110E3 is backing up. Sneak one into his side. They don't have particularly strong sides. He takes another hit. And now he's fighting multiple directions. The WZ moves in, but he dies to the object 277. And that has finally broken this turtle up that was in this road right here. Guy dies to my left, so I don't have to worry about him. So I'll come out against this guy. There we go. A double tap and a fire. So we double tap that guy with 2 shots. And we light him on fire. I actually rolled a 551 on one of those shots. Oh, that's the track. Okay, so I don't actually know what I did right there. What's the track symbol mean? That one's got me a little flummoxed. I'm going to have to look that up. I see the fire. I see the track. Oh, that's the assist. Okay, now I'm tracking. I rolled a 551 with the 2 shots. That's what happened there. So 2 300 alpha shots got me 551. I got some assist at 445 because I tracked him. I lit him on fire for 185. Now I'm tracking. I lied. I said it was 4,000 damage. Well, maybe it is. We're not quite done yet. Bump into the 277, and now it's clean up on aisle 2. We'll just speed this thing up. I get hit by the WT, who sees me moving along right there. So we'll move in here and we'll see if we can get a shot on him. Out into the open. There's the artillery. We'll just take him down. Boom. And the other one. Boom. There we go. Artillery dead. There, I did get 4,345. And I don't get a kill on the WT, so I'll make you watch it. All right, so like I said, I lied. Here comes the third example, and then we'll wrap this thing up with my lies about I only did 2 examples. All right, in this example, this is a pretty good example of kind of how it has to go with this tank to do well. You can see that I've finally got upgraded. Got the big guns on there. Carrying 12 APCR. I am middle tier in a 3-tier battle. We're here on Kharkov. No, we're not. We're on Studzianski. Is it called Kharkov? I think it's called Kharkov in the... no, it's not. That's a different map. Man, I'm just losing it. Anyway, we're in Studzianski. Might be Kharkov in the files. Can't remember. I'm just going to push at these guys, and all of a sudden, oh, geez. An IS-2-II goes in there. Then we've got an IS... What else we got there? A 110E5 piles in, and I'm very glad I didn't do that. And that's kind of what I was doing with this thing. I was rushing forward, getting in there, getting these big guns involved, And this is more how you have to play this thing. This is really how you have to play any tank. You shouldn't be raging in and getting yourself pinned down early. There's a lot. I mean, just look at all the guys that piled in. I'd have been out of this game so quickly if I'd have done what I was planning on doing from the very beginning. So now we're just going to sit back here and use this firepower to the best of our ability. There's not very many of us over here. One of the problems, obviously, that I've got is I don't have enough speed to really get away. So for the moment, and the 907's doing a nice job trying to hold him. I don't know what this guy's plan was. That was just dumb. But thank you for doing it. We do appreciate that. I'm going to accept the shot from the low to make sure that we can get rid of the T-50. And now I've got the attention of the artillery. Why not? And now I'm waiting for the reload. So careful. Yeah, there's the other one. So carefully managing the reloads on this thing. Look at that. Boom, boom. 907's getting some spotting. I'm up to 1600. Try to sneak one in on the Lurva. I need him gone because he's keeping me lit, plus he has shots on me. And I'm afraid that I'm just going to get eventually arty to death if we can't make him go away. There we go. So we make him go away. And we've created an advantage over here, even though we were a little bit outnumbered. Some guys flexed back, it looked like. 907 did a fantastic job. And I did my best not to YOLO forward and die in the ravine, which ended up working out. So it needs to be close. It can heavy tank when needed. It needs to try to not be the first guy punching faces, right? Especially if it's in a situation where I was about to dive into a ravine and take on multiple tanks. This is not the heavy tank that does that. This guy is that big stick. That's that big threat that's nearby. Close enough to get the shots off with the big 122. That's relatively derpy, but not so close that he's the guy whose armor you're relying on. And to be quite honest, I have trouble with that. I like to be up there punching faces. So now we got to try to figure out how to peel guys out of the bushes back here. We've got the Su-101 over to the right. I'm a little bit worried about him because he does have some pretty good DPM and nice pen. But he is pretty hurt, so I'd really like him to go away if we could. Make him die, that'd be fantastic. There we go. RNG worked out for me on that one, so I'll take it. That was very nice. Looks like the M60 just got the 907, so he's back there somewhere. The T-54 moving around in this corner. About to uncover from here, but we find the FV doing his thing. Drop one into that top deck there. He's kind of got a bad angle for that, so that's to my advantage. Put another one on him. We take him down. Get myself up to 2,218. Got everybody clicking back where we know they are. Thank you. We're all well aware that's where they are. Got some guys over here. Snap that off a little bit fast. Probably had I aimed in nicely, I would have got a shot on one of those two. Looks like he's probably looking at me. There we go. And down he goes. Up to 2,660. So I think that's a good example of really the best way to play this is to be up near the front, help the push, but be very careful about overextending in it, because that whole heavy tanking thing is going to be very difficult. I was really trying to sneak a shot into one of his hatches. That's a little bit far for that tank, the 122, to be sniping hatches, but I also didn't want to take a big shot to the face. So we ended up winning that. I got 4 kills, 2,660 damage, 3,219 assists, and I just wanted to show you that more careful gameplay is kind of the best way to do this thing. All right, let's wrap this thing up. Well, all right, I did say at the first that we'd do 3 examples, but I realized the other 2 I had. One was a 4,000 damage gain, the other one actually a 5,000 damage gain. One of them a loss, one of them a win. They were stock, so stock gun anyway. They were upgraded, I believe, engine-wise, but it was one of the games was right before I upgraded to the big guns. That was the 5,000 or the 4,000 damage game. Anyway, I already showed you that the 100 millimeter can be effective. I suppose I should have used the higher damage games to prove that, but there you go. Let's see. So what about this? It's okay. You know, it's got the double barrel trick. it's not a particularly great heavy tank. It's sort of a hybrid, but it's a hybrid that you don't want. You know what I mean? I mean, you want it because it's cool with the two guns, but it's not like it's a heavy tank TD hybrid or a medium tank medium heavy or a heavium. It's not fast like a medium. It doesn't really do heavy tank stuff, but it has two great big guns. And you don't want to play it necessarily like a TD, even though I sort of talked about that a little bit, because its accuracy is so poor relatively. So it does need to get close to its work. I would say you want to play a little bit more like an assault TD, where you're second line but you're close. But then you don't want to rely on the armor minus potentially the turret in certain situations. So I mean, that's all I can say about it, to be quite honest. I would recommend going down the line. I recommend going down every line, so that's just the way it is. But hopefully this gives you some information to make decisions on when you might want to go down that line or prioritize. It's a one-trick pony with the double barrels. The double barrels can be fun. I actually didn't have an example of double tapping. I wish I had a game where I did that. I got a little better at it as I went, knowing when to do it. And there were a couple good events where I really, put the hurt on somebody with the double shot. But that was fewer and further between than I might have liked. So, fun tank because of its trick. Not a particularly great heavy tank as far as what heavy tanks do at Tier 9 in World of Tanks. So if you can accept that, you're going to have to be careful with its heavy tankness, and you like the fact that there's two of these big bad boys on it, and, not quite, KV2 levels. I play it for the memes with HE, but close. All right, guys, thanks for coming by. Hope you liked this review. If you did, make sure you throw me a sub. If you'd like to know other ways you can support my channel and my bad gaming habit, check it out down in the description. I appreciate you guys coming by, and we will see ya.